Here's an AMI This Week shortcut with Laura Bain.
Charles Bonnet Syndrome, or CBS, is a common yet under-recognized condition, which causes some people who experience vision loss to have visual hallucinations. Kimberly Lake has Charles Bonnet Syndrome.
So my first hallucination started about 3 or 4 days after I lost my vision. And my vision loss was very dramatic. I have a great big black spot in my vision. So in that black vision, the rest of my vision is very staticky. So it's like watching TV through static. But I did have this great big black spot. And that's where it was most prevalent, is in this black spot. And it was like spatulas and bicycle tires and spokes, just very plain everyday items. And so that's the way it lasted for the first couple of weeks. But then my vision started to go some more. And that's when I started seeing things that were more lifelike. Like I could see my grandmother, like she was smoking in my closet. And just Bert and Ernie standing at the bottom of my bed in the middle of the night.
I can imagine that would be very unsettling.
It definitely was, especially the first couple of weeks when I didn't really know what was going on. And I thought I was losing my mind. I really did. So when I went to the doctor sent me to CNIB, and CNIB was where I first heard about Charles Bonnet Syndrome.
Rhiannon Varon is a low vision specialist with Vision Loss Rehabilitation Nova Scotia. Rhiannon, what causes Charles Bonnet Syndrome?
Right. So we have to think a little bit about what normally happens with the eye. So in our normal circumstance, light from our environment comes into the eye and it hits the retina at the back of the eye. And then once it hits the retina, it's kind of sent as visual information to the brain, which then processes that information, and we see things. But when there's an eye disease that gets in the way, the brain has to kind of fill that void. So when there's a spot, like Kim had mentioned, with that arc of vision kind of lost on the one side, the brain is trying to fill in that area with something that might be familiar. So people will often see, could be faces of people that are in their lives. It could be simple things like patterns or colors or shapes. It's really a matter of, what your experiences have been up until that point.
Are people typically hesitant to speak up about the hallucinations they're experiencing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's still so much of a stigma attached to the word hallucination. So I know when I explain it to people, I may use that word, but I use it very delicately, because it does kind of have this negative connotation for people that they're going crazy or that it's not normal and something more sinister could be happening. But when you tell them that this happens to about 1 in 5 people that have vision loss, then it suddenly doesn't feel so scary.
Is it clients with any particular type of vision loss who tend to experience CBS?
Yeah, I think a more sudden loss of vision. So the longer you've had normal vision and then suddenly lose it, I think that does play into it. So we often will see it with macular degeneration, glaucoma, diabetes. But I know other people could have other conditions where the sight is lost very quickly. And I think they're more likely to have it than somebody who's had it long standing.
Kim, how does Charles Bonnet Syndrome impact your daily life?
So every day it's affected, because not only am I straining to see everything, I'm also straining to see if it's real. So sometimes it frightens me and I'll jump, I'll knock something over, I'll drop something. If I'm out in a store and I see a great big rat, I see a lot of rats and mice and things like that, you're always on guard. You can tell that the visions aren't real, just because I know my grandmother's been dead since I was 13. So I know she's not really smoking a cigarette in my closet. I know Donald Trump isn't in my bathroom.
Rhiannon, what advice do you give people who are experiencing Charles Bonnet Syndrome?
There are things that we advise people. So the first one is to talk about it, to recognize that this is something that's normal. And if you share those experiences, it doesn't feel so daunting. Also, some people just find if I turn my eyes a certain way, or if I move them around really fast, or they'll have their own kind of way to maybe get rid of it. Also, just recognizing that it's not real is really important, telling yourself in your head that this is just something that's I'm seeing, it's not really real, and that can help. We often will tell people to stimulate another sense. So whether that's going into a room, if you're sitting in a quiet room and you're experiencing the hallucination, go into a room and listen to music, or suck on a sour candy or something, just to stimulate a different sense. That often can help you get out of the visual thing a little bit faster. And there is a group, a Charles Bonnet support group, run through the CNIB Foundation.
Kim, you're a part of that support group. Have you found it helpful?
It's amazing. It's great. The people are very open and they relate their stories. So it's good to have other people to talk to about it.
For sure. Well, thank you both so much for joining me and sharing your experience and knowledge of this condition.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.